Welcome back. The Standing Committee on Public Accounts says it has welcomed, in fact, the dissolution of the Passenger Rail Agency's board. That announcement, you'll remember, was made by the Transport Minister, Fikile Mbalula, on Monday. Well, it came after various calls for urgent action to be taken at the agency due to years of allegations of mismanagement and even corruption. We also saw attacks on train services. That was in Cape Town in particular. You'll remember there was also the controversial locomotives contract. That was during the tenure of the former Chief Executive Lucky Montana. Now here we are with the dissolution of the board and Prasa placed under administration. Let's talk about this now with the Standing Committee on Public Accounts chairperson, Mkhuleko Hlengwa, who is in Johannesburg for a change. A very good evening to you, Mkhuleko, and thank you for coming in. I'll talk about Prasa in just a moment, but you have also been seized with the affairs of another state-owned entity, and that is Eskom. President Cyril Ramaphosa leaving yesterday just as we got news that we were going into stage 6 load shedding. Now he's cut short his trip to Egypt to come and deal with the crisis. Are you hopeful that anything concrete will come from his meeting with Eskom on Wednesday?
Well, I suppose any attempt trying to fix this problem is a welcome move, but I think they must move from the correct point of departure. And you will recall that we, as Scopa, visited Medupi and Kusile in August. And chief amongst the observations was that from design stage, Medupi and Kusile were doomed for failure. And so it's no surprise that we are landed with this mess today, because a project which was supposed to have been planned over 3 years was planned over 1 year. And so as construction takes place at Medupi and Kusile, they are fixing design flaws and they are fixing things. Now, the spin, of course, is that Kusile is modeled around Medupi. So what we are seeing currently at Medupi, we should not be surprised if it plays itself out at Kusile. So there was a fundamental collapse of planning, which has had a ripple effect. But moreover, the interventions for corrective action have not been sufficient, and they have not responded to the very real challenges there. And we have made a long list, of course, of recommendations. Because amongst other things here, you're dealing with corruption at the very heart of this construction. Cost escalations, they are shooting through the roof. And there's been an absence of consequence management. And so amongst other things, we are saying we really need to tighten up on the financial management and the vast resources available for this project, for these projects at Eskom. And it is also clear that the high turnover of experts in the field at construction is a problem. So there's instability even at the stage of construction. But I think the final point is that we are also dealing with contractors who are not engaging with the state in good faith, and it's more about them and less about the project. So whatever intervention that the president makes, whilst would be welcome, but it should move from the correct point of departure, which is to say we need to go back to the basics and actually fix the entire design plan of Medupi and Kusile so that it responds to the national needs.
I'm glad you mentioned Medupi and Kusile, because they were meant to be completed in 2015. That was 4 years ago now. But you go back in the earlier decade, as soon as 2001, the then Energy Minister, Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, was already flagging issues like Eskom's inability to collect revenue from customers as a problem that would see it in the red. There were already issues flagged by the minister at that time, almost 20 years ago, about how the country was failing to prepare for the coming increase in demand for electricity. Has there been sufficient reckoning by the government of the day for its role and the responsibility that it should shoulder for where we find ourselves today?
No, there's an absence of political will and political accountability insofar as the matters of Eskom are concerned. And that is fundamentally where the problem lies. But on the flip side is that if we are going to have Eskom as a business, we need to treat it like one. I think we have been very cosmetic as a country about state-owned entity and sort of walked on eggshells insofar as enforcing what a business should be doing. You've got municipal debt to Eskom shooting through the roof. You've got government departments not paying Eskom, even public enterprises where this entity is housed. So all the issues you raise accumulate simply because we have always had the way out, which has been bailouts. But we cannot afford bailouts any longer. And so because that reality has prevailed, now we have to shift gear and actually understand that these are businesses. The same situation prevailed at SAA. And we are probably going to see a similar situation with Denel, because we have not actually, had the discipline to be honest about what is going on in these instances. But I think finally, to make
very quickly, because I want to move you on to Prasa.
For sure. The fundamental issue is consequence management. For so long as we allow the looting, the corruption, the non-accountability, and the violation of every financial management prescript there is, we are not going to deal with this problem. So that needs to form part of the major outlook of reforming these entities.
Well, there's at least one state-owned entity where the government appears to be cracking the whip quite sufficiently, if I've read your statement on it correctly. Prasa under administration now for 12 months, the interim board dissolved. That board was brought in 2018 to try and clean it up. It failed to do that, yet it had its term extended by the then Transport Minister, Blade Nzimande. From your reading as Scopa, why was such a decision made to begin with?
I don't know, and I don't want to speculate, but from the basis of facts, and maybe what you can do for the viewers is to retrieve the recording of the hearing we had on the 20th of November in Scopa with the interim Prasa board and the minister was present. An absolute disaster. The clearest indication of the highest level of arrogance, the highest level of non-accountability, and a simple laissez-faire attitude to the basic functions. A board that cannot keep minutes, resolutions, and the record of decisions, but yet the attendance register for all meetings is there, and so because the attendance register there, everybody gets paid. That meeting was a clear indication that the board was not fit for purpose.
Let me ask you this.
And it was a regression, by the way. The Auditor General's audit outcome, the finding, was a regression. With this board in place for the full duration of the year. And so the minister had no other option, and we welcome the fact that he's moved with the necessary speed to fix that disaster and chaos that played itself out there.
In 30 seconds, how do we attract the right people to the boards of state-owned enterprises who can move them forward, given that a lot of them complain about political interference and that sort of thing standing in the way of their work?
We need to deploy the right skills and minimize on interference to the extent that we need to demolish it. And secondly, we need to trust the people we deploy if they've got the necessary skills, knowledge and expertise. This is about the country and not about the politics. And the Auditor General has been a North Star in pointing to where the challenges are, and that's the baseline we need. And then of course bring in the experts and the other sectors, but it boils down to the deployment correctly, within due process, transparently, of the right people, and trusting them to do what it is that they need to do, rather.
Mkhuleko, thank you so much. You could clearly talk about this all night.
No,
thank you so much for your time. That was the chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts, Mkhuleko Hlengwa, speaking to us about the latest headlines coming from our state-owned entities. Let's